Hey everyone, this is Eddie and welcome back to the Seasons Podcast. Today we have one special guest, Vincent Ling, who is joining us from Japan. Vincent and I are longtime friends and we met during our college freshman year. When we graduated, we had the options to do our OPT as international students. The OPT is a one-year freebie that we get to use to work here in the US and gain some more experience before we either decide to move out or stay here through a sponsorship program or enroll in another school and etc. etc. There are many ways to stay here. So while I decided to stay here in the US, Vincent decided to move immediately to Japan and work as an assistant language teacher. The purpose of this episode is to see how was his decision-making process, why did he choose Japan, and how is his career going so far, given that Japan has a very unique set of challenges. They have a declining economy and also a bunch of social issues as well. So I think that Vincent offers a very unique point of view if you're thinking about moving out of the country and starting over, or maybe you're just simply curious about the Japanese culture overall. So yeah, hope you enjoyed today's episode. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us on Instagram and Facebook. You can find us there as the Seasons Podcast. If you want to check out video footage and clips of this episode and other episodes, feel free to visit our YouTube channel, also as the Seasons Podcast. And once you're there, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. This will help us immensely with the YouTube algorithm. But yeah, without further ado, let's roll the intro. Hi Vincent, what's up?
Hey, what's up? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, man. How you doing?
Yeah. I'm good. Just a little bit sleepy. I've been, doing overtime on a Saturday, so this weekend
Jesus.
is not a weekend. It's more like a work weekend.
Oh my. Is this every
Yeah.
weekend for you?
Not really. It's just this week because one of the teachers was supposed to be at the event. He chickened out last minute, so my boss called me in. I was like, "Can you come in here after you ride a 2-hour train?" I'm like, "Sure." Do I get paid for this? Like, yes, you do. Overtime pay. I'm like, okay. Is my train fare covered? Yes, it is. Okay, I'm coming then.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Jeez. Can you introduce yourself to our audience? Give us a little bit of your background and everything.
Right. So, name's Vincent, but you can call me Vince. Yeah, I'm Malaysian. That even though I'm Malaysian, but I didn't live in Malaysia at all. I was raised in Brunei. It's a pretty small island in Borneo. So I spent most of my, teenage life there, and then soon after I graduated from high school, I took a plane and went to San Francisco instead, and spent my last 4 years there getting my degree. After that, I tried to stay in the States through the OPT system, but I found Japan was more to my calling, so I moved to Japan instead. Before moving to Japan, I was still waiting on the work visa to be done for the Japanese from the Japanese government. So I went back home for 8 months. After 8 months, I took the last flight to Japan from Brunei. It's funny because the Japanese ambassador was actually in the same plane as me. So
No
that's
way.
that's how I end up now in Japan. Yeah. And it's
That's
been
awesome.
9 months since. Yeah, I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's pretty much the gist in it. Yes.
So if we take a step back,
Sure.
when you were here in the U.S. and
Right.
well, you were studying here. We started college here in the U.S. in the same school, and then you transfer and everything. How was how was your junior and your senior year like? Thinking about either staying here in the U.S. or how was the challenges you faced when you were looking
Right.
for a job here in the U.S.
Right. Initially, when I moved to San Francisco, I actually wanted to stay there permanently. But the problem is that I encounter is because us being international students, we have sort of an extra hurdle that we have to overcome when we actually try to find a job after graduation. Yeah, I there are. It took me at least after graduation, still waiting for the OPT to get approved. I waited like in my room, online searching for a job for I think around 3 to 4 months. Literally wake up, get on a laptop searching for jobs, and then met with countless emails of, oh, this job is not suited for you. We have found someone else who's more suitable for 3 to 4 months. Those 3 to 4 months were quite depressing. The countless emails of rejections are insane.
I feel that definitely. I also spent
Yeah.
an entire summer during 2019 to look for a job, and finally I
Right.
took a pretty bad job at the beginning, and then
Yeah.
I was blessed with a second chance with another job, and now I'm staying with the company. The work environment, it's awesome. So yeah, I definitely
Yeah.
feel you. During that period was very uh, emotionally challenged.
Yeah,
I don't know
and
if that's the right
traumatic. and traumatic. Some
What
would
what
say.
what type of jobs were you looking for?
I really don't have a preference at that time. I just look for jobs that suited to my degree, which is econ. But again,
Mm-hmm.
econ is such a generalized degree, so it's hard to pinpoint which career then I'm gonna move in. Yeah, that's the problem that I had. Because econ again is such a generalized degree. You really don't have a specific, job market to aim for. You're just shooting everywhere. You pray that you might get one. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So what would be like the preferred job position that you would have wanted, that would have made you stay here in the US?
Mm, that's the thing, though. I have thought about it, but more that I think about it, I really have no clue at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my professors prefer me because I have econ degree to get into banking, but banking is not really my thing either. Feeling like sitting in an office forever crunching numbers is not really my thing either. So the funny thing is that my dad actually said he predicted this, that I'll be a teacher, which I am right now. So I'm like, oh, that is true, but also kind of sketchy. They actually predicted my future of being an English teacher. So yeah.
Yeah, I think like an econ degree, in my opinion, I would have never taken an econ as my
Right.
major. No offense there.
No, none taken,
yeah.
none taken. Yeah.
I would have
No,
just
yeah,
taken as a minor, just to, because I think it's
Right.
very theoretical and not
Right,
like
right.
very practical, like I don't know, like
Right.
accounting. And
It is.
and yeah,
I took econ because econ is the only low bar degree that your Asian parents won't be disappointed in you.
Or
Like, doctor
finance.
engineers are on top. Finance, that's true. That's very true. That's very true. Yeah. So,
So
that's
yeah,
pretty much it.
when you were still here in the US, what was the event or anything that happened that made you make your final decision of going to Japan?
Right.
How was
right.
that decision making process?
I think it finally clicked when I actually went for my first job interview and also the first job offer I get from the same company. The company was sort of like a advertising company, but they require us to go out to people and advertise their clients' products. Yeah, when I would sit down for an interview and the interviewer did describe to me what the job's gonna be, I'm like, this is not what I want to do. I really don't want to do this. Even though the pay is good, but I'm like, I don't think I can live off of this for as a long term, solution. So I'm like, I need to move somewhere else. And then me being interested in Japanese culture since when I was like really young, like 8 or so, because in Malaysia we usually have Japanese what we call anime broadcast like every morning in Malaysia. So I sort of have
Same in
that
Ecuador.
early. Yeah, I sort of have the same exposure to Japanese culture, and then soon after it became more deepened when I move on to my high school years where internet is a thing, so we can search it up online. And then it got a lot deeper when I was in college. When I transferred to a cooler school, they had a Japanese language department. So I took the language course for like maybe 2 or 3 semesters. That first solidified my solution. My position to move to Japan instead.
Mm-hmm. So in that job that you didn't really like, what was it that, I don't know, you thought that it was really dreadful for you? What part of it?
Right, right. I think the other thing is to help a company, even though I never thought like the job would require me to advertise some other companies, even though the product is not good. We have to say that it's good. I really don't
Okay.
like that. I don't know. You can call me having high morals. I'm like, I just can't do it. Yeah, I just can't really sell out because it's just too much for me to bear. Like selling out
Definitely.
my own personality for a company, even though the company's product is not good as advertised, it just kills me. I'm like, nah, I cannot do, I can't accept this job offer. I can't. I really can't.
Can you tell me which company
Yeah.
so I can avoid them?
Oh, I don't
No, no, no,
know.
no. I'm kidding.
The interviewer didn't tell me what companies they work with, so I don't know either.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
So when you said that you were really interested in the Japanese culture and everything, and so you
Mm-hmm.
decided to move to Japan, um,
Mm-hmm.
was it just that feeling that was considered like a factor for your final decision, or was it more to it? Like as a, someone that just graduated, personally, I would argue that I'm very interested about the how much they pay, the career growth
Right,
opportunity there, and probably
right,
just work like crazy until
right,
I'm at an age that I feel like I'm financially um, stable enough to retire and
right.
everything. So, what
Mm-hmm.
made
Mm-hmm.
Japan more attractive other than uh,
I
just
think
that feeling?
I think for me, it started when after my freshman year in in San Francisco, I started watching these what we call J vloggers, Japan vloggers about because most of the foreigners living in Japan they're working as ALTs, which is assistant language teachers. It's that life sort of is quite exciting, living in Japan but also teaching English to kids, and hopefully you can inspire them to able to use the language. Yeah, that really started, and then soon after I continue watching them, and then further Japanese culture like anime, manga. I'm a big fan. I'm literally a geek, so in that, so it further solidify my my thought process of yeah, I'm going there instead. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it, how it began, and then how I end up right now.
What attracts me
Yeah.
the most about Japan is just the food, man. Oh,
Yeah, it's
uh,
good. It's good, but pricey. It's really pricey.
is it?
Yeah, I don't dare. I don't dare to eat out every day because it will bankrupt you.
No way. It's more expensive than here in SF.
That's true. That's true. San Francisco is still more expensive,
Yeah,
honestly.
everything is cheaper for me. Anywhere else.
Everywhere else, and most of all, no tips here. No tips.
Oh,
No tips whatsoever.
that's
Trust me. When I move here, I'm like, yes, no tips. Don't have to do math. Yes, it's a blessing.
that's
So
awesome.
yeah, yeah, it's
So
all
yeah,
good.
when you moved to Japan, what
Right,
was you already made your decision and everything?
right,
What were the challenges you faced in terms of like I think you mentioned it. I mentioned a
right,
little bit about it during the start of the conversation, but can you
right,
give us like more detail about the visa process or finding an
right,
apartment there,
right.
etc., etc.?
Yes, yes. Surprisingly, yes. The first thing is the paperwork. Definitely the paperwork. They, especially for
Mm-hmm.
my job, because I come from a country which English is not the main language being used. So
Mm-hmm.
the company wants me to submit documents to verify, like my high school and throughout my university life, that every subject course are taught in English. So I have to email and call up my old high school teachers and ask them to submit a letter with saying that, oh, this student has attend classes that are in English pretty much. So
Mm-hmm.
I had to get 10 letters from different schools to prove that I'm able to, communicate in English and teach English to the students. Yeah, that's only step one. And then after that, we have to submit a lot of personal documents of like where have we been, your parents information, your siblings information, your medical records as well. So literally, I remember the stack was like 50 pages that I have to ship from Brunei to Japan. And then have to wait for 2 or 3 months to wait for the Japanese Department of Justice to approve my application. And then they have to ship it back again with the paperwork. And then I have to fly to, once I get the paperwork called a certificate of employment, that paperwork. So I have to bring that paperwork because I'm Malaysian. I'm living in Brunei. But so that means I have to fly to a Malaysian city with a Japanese consulate there to get my visa done. So literally, I have to pay for a flight ticket from Brunei to the nearest Japanese consulate in Malaysia, which is in Sabah. That was a 5-hour, plane ride. And I had to stay for one night there because I have to wait until the visa sticker was done as well. So after that, I fly back to Brunei and then quickly book a ticket because the pandemic was starting to catch up around the world. So I managed to get the last flight ticket of the flight from Brunei to Japan. The last flight before they close off everything. That's what, at the beginning I was it was the last flight. So the Japanese ambassador of Brunei was also the same flight as me. Of course, he was in first class. I was in the peasant economy class. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And that's only the start. Once you land here, you have to show them that you're working here, so you'll be taken to a separate room where they will create what we call a residence card for you. That's your ID. And the most important thing is that my bosses tell me you must take this with you when you go outside of your house. Because if you don't, and the police flags you down, and you don't have that, they will fine you $2,000.
No.
Yes, just because you don't have an ID, you need to carry that at all times.
How big is it? Okay, is it just a little ID card? It's
like an ID card with my face on it, and then how long I'm staying here. It can be renewed because at the back there's like different. There's a table chart, which you renew every time if you decide to live here long term. So after I landed and get out from the visa office, we had to wait for a few days before training starts. After we had gone through training, because we're moving to a new place, a new city, unlike in the States, you can just move to whatever city you feel like it, right? You don't have to say, you don't have to tell the government, I'm moving from San Francisco to Los Angeles, right? Here, you have to. So you have to go to the city hall and tell them that you're moving to this city. So the pension forms and everything and health insurance can send it to your place. And then in the States, you usually sign documents, right? In Japan, you use these. This is called a hanko. It's like a stamp.
Okay. Yeah,
it's like a stamp. Yeah, you need this to stamp every document that you see, bank documents, everything. Yeah. So that's only, for registering to live here. And then after you have done everything, when you go to the bank as well, more stamping. Yeah.
Wait, for our listeners that are not watching the video, the little stamp that Vincent is talking about literally looks like a little cigarette, like a stick.
Yeah, cigarette with my name on it in Japanese form, in katakana.
So if you lose that, you can't sign anything there.
No, I can't sign anything, and I have to get a new one. But that means the previous documents being chopped with the old one now have to be re-chopped again with the new one.
Oh my.
That means I have to go to City Hall again and tell them, I have lost this, and can I please chop the rest of them? And the paperwork for each person, I think, is around 50 to 100 pages if you want to move to a new city. Yeah.
Wow, no way.
Yeah, I know, a lot of paperwork.
And this is not even considering the job part, right?
Not yet. This is just basic, entry level, that you're settling into the city paperwork.
So was applying for a job in Japan easier than, all the resident paperwork?
The funny thing is that I didn't apply for this company. I got recruited
Oh,
I got recruited. Yeah, I got recruited. Yeah, I think I might have flying my CV around the net. They saw it, and they saw that on my application
Craigslist.
I I don't know where did I put it. So they saw I have some basic Japanese language skill. So they just called this guy up, and then after a few interviews, I got the job. Yeah, that's pretty much it. But for my case, it's easier because it's a language company, so they could hire people on the spot. But in Japan, usually, unlike in the States, they usually hire people throughout the year, right? In Japan, they only hire people on certain periods. Like, for example, during the spring period, because that's when all the university graduates. So after that period is gone, companies won't hire anybody else until the
Mm,
next cycle comes in again. That's pretty much
yeah.
it. Yeah, it's very different.
So yeah, no worries. So I wanted to tackle a little bit about the socioeconomic issues that are present now in Japan.
Right,
From what I've
right.
read so far, is that since I believe the Japanese economy peaked on the 1990s, and since then it's just
Yeah,
been under recession. The former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has been like implementing fiscal and monetary policies and
yeah.
structural reform to
Mm-hmm.
kind of like incentivize the to kind of like stimulate the economy up to a point
Right,
that right now you guys are having like negative interest rates. Basically,
right,
the
right.
bank pays you to take a loan out.
Yes, 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 yes.
And yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
very curious if I were you,
Mm-hmm.
looking at this news, I would be extremely discouraged to go to Japan to find a job there. At least I would say, okay, let's stick here in the U.S.
Yeah,
Since things are going well here for a while, and
yeah.
then I'll move there once I feel that things are getting better, I guess.
Right, right. The thing is, even though the news portrays that way, local people here don't really care because they are
Mm-hmm.
more focused on their jobs instead. And yes, right. You're right about the stimulus thing. That another problem with Japanese, I would say in general, is after the bubble burst, they're more reluctant to spend more, even though they should. So
Yeah.
like the recent COVID stimulus check, I can guarantee you most of my Japanese colleagues didn't spend it at all. They just put into their bank account instead.
Mm.
Yeah, that's
So you're
pretty
telling
much
me
the
it's more like
universal.
a cultural stuff.
Cultural stuff, yeah, definitely cultural
Mm.
stuff and previous experiences with the bubble. They're sort of now kind of reluctant to spend more than they should. Yeah.
Do you think that, so I've heard that also the birth rate there are very low. Do you think that, does that have
Yes.
any correlation, causation?
I would say so as well, because the reason why we're such a low birth rate is because of the last decade
Mm-hmm.
generation, because they are so uninterested, in the general society of life. They sort of cut themselves off, and then that
Mm-hmm.
further, declines the birth rate in this country. And most of all is, I'll say the Japanese here are kind of reluctant to have kids these days, because nowadays Japanese men and women are more focusing on their careers, and plus having a kid in Japan is very very costly, like very very costly, especially if you have both parents are working. I don't think they have the time to
Mm-hmm.
to take care of a kid. That's pretty much my general observation of things.
Mm-hmm. And so the lost decade generation, just to give a little bit of context for the audience here, the lost generation that Vincent was referring was the generation of people that started looking for jobs after the bubble burst during the 90s, and then um, they never landed a secure job, and they're just being like, struggling in life generally. And right now they are, how can I say it? Just being an employee, staying at home, staying with their parents, and it would not be something that you would imagine a 40 or a 50-year-old person would be doing at their age. So,
Right.
as a friend, I'm a bit concerned if do you think that you will ever fall into that category? Because I've heard that in Japan it's very hard to climb the corporate ladder because they don't and this is all the news from what I've read from the
Right,
news
right,
and the
right.
media here, right?
Yeah, that's
Might
a
not be true,
yeah.
but I've read
Right,
that it's
right,
very hard to to climb the corporate ladder because they consider more the seniority
right,
other than the merit.
right, right,
So
right,
the and because you know Japanese people they are getting older and older, their life
right,
expectancy is
right.
pretty long as well. So old people stay on these upper level jobs, and the young people at the bottom they just generally struggle. So my question for you: do you see yourself struggling like that, like the lost generation in the future?
I wouldn't think so because I'm a foreigner at first, so I'm sort of being held a different standard in some sense. Because usually in Japan, foreigners are treated like a rare Pokemon. Like if, for example, if you have a foreign, I'm not, I'm serious. So if you have a foreigner in a company, it's sort of like a good thing for the company because because they know that foreigner is able to communicate between them and the client that's maybe like overseas client. So they sort of treat us at a different standard compared to the regular Japanese employees. But you're right about the seniority thing because I don't think it happens now, but back in the day, if you want to climb the corporate ladder, the most horrendous thing is that even though the job is from like a 9 to 5 job, but if your boss doesn't leave, you cannot leave. So you have to wait until your boss leaves, then you can leave. So if your boss decided to stay behind until 10 p.m., you are staying behind 10 p.m., even though all the job has been done. That's why Japan is sort of very unproductive in that sense. Even now in my workplace, if I know most of the teachers already finished their work, but they are staying there because the vice principal and the principal hasn't leave yet. They will
Oh
wait until the vice principal and the principal leaves, then they can leave. No, they have to wait until the head of each grade leaves, then they can leave. Yeah, that's why it's sort of
way.
unproductive. But these days, there are more companies now. They are more towards like a Silicon Valley vibe. So they'll consider if you finish your work, then you can just go home. Just go home. Yeah, because the what's it called the system of staying behind until your boss leaves actually caused a huge problem. I think a few years ago at a major Japanese advertising agency. I think it's called Dentsu. So one of the young female employees, she was worked to death, like overtime on overtime, to the point she actually committed suicide by jumping off the building of Dentsu, that was like a wake up call for Japan. But again, even though that was such a horrible event, people just slip right back to as they used to be, which is kind of dangerous as well. So yeah,
I
it's
also
really
heard
tricky.
that. Yeah, I also heard that. I think there was one important event that kind of like sparked the conversation about the lost generation, which is why it
Right.
also popped up on my news feed.
Right.
During May 2019, there was like one of this one person who was in the 40 50 years old, also an employee. He
Right.
stabbed a group of people in a bus
Right.
or something like that.
Right.
And
Right.
people were just like kind of like scared, outraged, mixed feelings towards it, and sparked the conversation about like how can we help these people. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's very sad that the crime rates in such a from my perspective, such a special country where people are hard workers, respectful, everything about the
Right.
culture, it's awesome. But still, like, these people are also that there's also like a group of people that are struggling and everything up to the point of committing suicide. We also talked with someone about mental health and suicide from one of our
Yeah.
past episodes, so that kind of touches me as well.
Right. The problem is that Japan doesn't regard mental health as a problem. It's more like a you deal it yourself kind of situation. And I would say most crime in Japan are caused by people, around the last decade generation. Like for example, I had a work colleague that his apartment is located in a really sketchy area. His neighbor is also, part of the lost decade generation because I think those people, they really don't care at that point. They really don't care because they have lost hope. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, they have lost hope in everything. So they really don't care. So there's one night my colleague told me that he wore an S&M outfit and just walk around the area. Like,
Wait.
yeah, like really, yeah.
What's an SMM?
Do you want to
Wait.
look it up?
Yeah, let me check it out on Google.
Yeah, sure, you can look it up. It might dirty your browsing history, but yeah.
No way.
Oh yes. Oh yes. I am serious. I am serious. And you know what's even more terrifying? My roommates like saw him because he was on the way back to his house. My work colleague was on the way back home as well. So they sort of clash. And then they meet face to face. My colleague just ran right away to his apartment and just shut the door and then just lock it. But he could see it from the intercom that the guy was looking at the door because he knows that he saw it.
No way. That's so awkward and creepy. Oh my god.
But luckily, my work colleague told me he left that apartment building 3 months later.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. But what's even more sketchy is like that apartment like next door to him. It used to one like a very elderly man was staying there, but all of a sudden 2 weeks later, that my work colleague was staying, he passed away in the house.
Oh.
Passed away in the house, and I saw that guy 2 weeks ago when I was there.
That
I'm
guy's
like,
gonna haunt you,
oh.
man.
I'm like,
Japan.
oh, he's gone.
I feel like in Japan the spiritual power is just higher there. There's so
I
many
think-
horror
Right,
stories
right.
and everything.
Right. But I think Japan is not that. The ghost thing doesn't catch on as much here. I would say people here tend to respect it, so they don't tend to get scared of it that much. I think. I could be
You
wrong,
think?
but that's what I think. Yeah, I think. But,
That's awesome, man. Like I really hope the best for you in your career. Looking
right.
at
Thanks,
from my
thanks.
perspective and everything that I'm seeing right now, it's like, what the heck did Vince just got himself into?
Right. Yeah, I'm also kind of lucky because if I actually took the job offer in San Francisco, I might have been out of a job, because that job requires me to go outdoors and talk to people. So with the pandemic, I might have been out of the job already.
Okay,
So,
well,
yeah.
things worked out.
Things worked out,
great.
yeah. By sheer luck, it worked out. By sheer luck, it works out. So yeah.
So
It-
how
it-
do you
it is
see
quite
yourself
crazy.
like? So how do you see yourself like in the next 5 years in Japan?
Right. It's right now. It's hard to say with the current pandemic going on. I really wanted to switch to different company or different career, but currently we have this. The COVID is going on, so it's really hard to able to switch careers or switch companies.
What
Yeah,
type
so
of
I-
position you plan to pivot to?
Mine mostly recruiting, I would say, but again, I'm not so sure yet. I'm still kind of indecisive. I'm a very indecisive person. I cannot make decisions on the whim. So yeah, that's my problem.
Just
yeah,
put
it's
a
hard to
couple. Just put a couple paper slips on the wall and throw a dart.
Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, so it's hard to say right now. Like, compared to our parent generation, they already have a focus on what they want for their future. But for us, because they are still in the survival mode, for us, we don't have that. So we're sort of having this blessing and a curse at the same time. Like, what to do? There's so many opportunities. What can I do? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
I
think
really don't
recruiter it's a
know
great
yet.
job, especially in Japan,
Right.
given that it's you are not the one getting hired, but you're hiring someone else. And
Right.
from our
Right.
conversation and everything, looks
Right.
like a
Right.
recruiter has a significant amount of power within a
Yeah.
company. So
Yeah, definitely. And what I could predict in the future, I would say most of the low-paying jobs in the future in Japan will be done by foreigners. They're starting already because in city like Tokyo, like the company, which is convenience store like 7-Eleven and Family Mart, most of the staffs are foreigners, like Vietnamese or from Nepal or from Malaysia. Yeah, they are mostly foreigners now. I think slowly you could see Japan would turn into like America kind of deal where there are more immigrants living in the country. But that takes a while because the Japanese are quite reluctant in accepting foreigners into their country because they want them to able to communicate with them in Japanese and don't have that misunderstanding sometimes. So
yeah, but that's kind of hard. I mean, either the
Yes.
Japanese people make up their mind and start, having babies like crazy, or
Yeah.
they have to let the foreigners out because otherwise, the labor force, it's just not gonna be enough.
Not enough at all. And then I was like, government here recently encouraged also interracial marriages more than before now. Yeah, so that's a good thing as well. But again, they need to do more. They need to do more. It's just having a kid in Japan is not. It is a huge responsibility. There are a lot of things that you have to consider. Like for example, elementary school, like all the stuff you need to get for a kid is really expensive. Like they have to have their own special bag called randoseru, which is cost around $300 just for a bag.
What? A bag? Just a school bag,
bag.
with
School
nothing
bag.
inside of it.
Nothing inside $300. It's made of purely leather. Yeah.
No
It's-
way.
it is.
Can I
It
just buy a
is.
cheap plastic bag?
No, you cannot do that. You cannot do that. You cannot. In Japan, that's a no. It's a no. And then after you have gone through elementary school and you go to junior high, they have a specific uniform and bags that you have to use. You unlike in the States or in Asia where we can use our own school bags to go to school, right? The students have to use the school official sign uniforms, PE kits, and their own school bags as well. Yeah.
Damn.
And then high school in Japan is not compulsory. High school, you actually have to take this entrance exam to get into a high school. So literally, Japanese education starts from kindergarten, elementary school, and junior high. That's compulsory. High school and university are option.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of mind blowing for me. So my wife is a huge fan of a Japanese YouTube vlogger. She
Right,
has
right.
The vlogger has a
J
baby and
vloggers.
everything. Yeah,
J
and I've
vloggers.
seen like videos of little kids in Japan, like how they in school, everybody like they bring a huge pot of food, and then there's one
Yeah.
like they designate
School
someone
lunches.
has to serve everybody.
Yeah, school lunches.
And I was
school
like,
lunches.
yeah, I was like that's good. Yeah, I want my kids to learn, that experience from a young age of, serving people, learning like
Right,
great
right.
values and everything. But wow,
Right.
that's expensive. Well,
Yeah, it's
Japan is out of
expensive.
option. My wallet can't afford that.
Well, not really. That's just the initial cost, but the long term is not too bad. Sometimes you might get subsidies from the government, so it's actually a
Okay.
good thing. Yeah, and most of the school lunches, which they call in Japanese is kyushoku, they're mostly from the central government, so they're also pretty cheap as well. So raising a kid, it's just the initial cost is really really expensive, like really really expensive.
So-
Besides that, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, so I will say Japanese schools are great in teaching kids to adapt into Japanese society, but they are not great when you try to switch to different cities like in the States or UK or EU. Unlike us, we're able to adapt to different countries, different cities, right? Japanese kids they're only able to here only in Japan only. If they move somewhere else, they will be really really confused on what to do. Honestly.
Yeah, honestly, I don't have any Japanese friend. Well, you You count as a 20% Japanese.
Oh no. So yeah. Yeesh. Yeah, it's quite a challenge. Yeah.
This is a personal question. So, do you
Shoot.
plan to have kids given the circumstances that you just mentioned?
I would, but I was sort of reluctant sending my kids to a Japanese high school, junior high, or elementary school. I would actually prefer them to be sent to international school instead, so they have that global exposure.
Definitely.
Again, Japanese schools are great, but they are not great in teaching kids of how to adapt to other societies, like the Western and the Eastern kind of societies. Kind of challenging for them. That's for sure.
Yeah, for my kids, I'm definitely sending them everywhere. Like, rural Mexico, my wife's from Mexico, rural Ecuador, my home country,
Right.
So they have the experience
right.
of like a third world
guess
country.
so,
I mean,
yeah.
it's not as bad as everybody pictures, but just for them
Yeah,
to
no.
see, open up their minds,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Ecuador is
open-
not just all forests and snakes everywhere.
That's what I thought initially, but after I met you, like, no, it's more than that. I'm like, oh, it's a pretty place.
This guy has an iPhone.
Yeah, oh wow. so yeah. Yeah.
Damn, man, Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
No. You go ahead. Yeah, shoot.
My last question would be, and you might not have an answer for this, and
Right.
so how do you think these social issues in Japan are gonna resolve?
They are slowly getting resolved, but at a very slow speed. Because in Japan, they take a while to get to what's it called to accept change. For example, recently the country actually doesn't mind that the previous emperor get what's it called stepping down and the new emperor come up, because a few years ago they really don't like that. They say that the emperor should stay in line until he passed away. But the previous emperor, he's getting pretty old, and he has some health issues. But right now the people are like, yeah, we don't mind letting him stepping down and then let his son take over. You know what I mean?
Can you
So-
explain to the people that don't know what
Right.
the Japanese emperor, who the Japanese emperor is and his role?
Right. The Japanese emperor is similar to the UK. They're pretty much a figure. A figure of the country. So they are just there to kind of look pretty, but also to engage in diplomatic relationships with other countries. So, like for example, if there's a change in of ambassadors in Japan, usually the ambassador will actually go to the royal palace and to greet the emperor, and then to self introduction to the emperor, saying that he's the new ambassador of such country, and then hopefully they can get along between Japan and his or her own country. So pretty much the emperor these days are for I think for the country's moral spirit, but also for a diplomatic relationship with other countries. That's pretty much their role these days. I would say so. Yeah.
Well, I really hope the best for Japan and the Japanese people. Hopefully,
Yeah.
slow change is good. A slow change is good.
Yeah.
Drastic change just gonna cause a civil war or something.
It really takes a while, man. Like everything moves at really slow speed. Like change in Japan takes a while. Like it takes. a
Well,
while.
you're part of the
There is
change,
but
right?
I think- Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That's good.
It is. It takes a while.
So any suggestions, recommendation they'd like to give to our audience regarding? Oh wait, oh yeah, now the video is it turned blurry out of nowhere. So yeah, so is there any recommendation that you would like to give to someone who is like thinking about moving somewhere else, starting a new career there?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that I moved to a new country based on a feeling, but the thing is that you also have to really determine that you want to move into that country. You cannot half-ass it. You really have to determine that, okay, I want to spend most of my life here. If you're not determined, I would say you have to think this through again before you move to another country. Because moving to a new country, there are some huge hurdles that you have to overcome in order to get used to this place or any country, per se. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Had to be determined that you want to live here, and you want to stay here as long as possible.
That's good.
That's pretty much my.
In my opinion, I don't know.
It's hard to say. Everyone is different. Everyone is different.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone is different. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I don't want to take away anything from from your message and everything.
Right.
And
shoot.
But for myself, it's like I'm just open to move anywhere. To be honest.
Anywhere.
I'm not like
right, especially
yes.
right now.
Exactly.
Especially
I'm
right
like
now. Especially right now. For you at least.
oh, the San Francisco rent is killing me. But
Dude. But
it's like I don't think that I'm gonna stay in the US for the rest of my life. There's so many options out there. I recently heard a podcast. Well, it was a video. The guy was like, but he recommends some to his audience that go to where you're treated the best, either financially, socially, I guess. And I think that's a huge that's a great advice, and I take it very personally. I'm like, I don't have personal attachment, well, up to some point to with any country that I've been in the past.
I guess so, yeah.
And I would say just go with your feeling. And also I'm talking from a point where I'm married already, so wherever my wife and my family is, it's where home is gonna be. So
exactly, gotta think it twice before you make a move, isn't it?
Well, Vincent, thank you so much for joining to the podcast.
No worries, man. No worries.
I hope to see you soon in Japan. I'm coming for that sushi and that ramen for sure. And,
yeah, sure.
And I hope to see mini events soon in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully, all the summer and winter events will come up soon because of the COVID. Most of them are canceled this year, so hopefully it bounces back again. But we'll see first. Yeah, we really have to see first.
Okay. So that's it. So that's our episode with Vincent Ling from Japan. I know you're not huge on social media. Is there any social media that you want to share?
I'm a pretty private person myself, so not at the moment. Because
all right.
Yeah.
No worries.
Japan's a weird place because if you put your private stuff online, some people will actually stalk it. Well, not me, but other people that I've experienced before. Yeah, they're quite creepy people around here. So.
There's Facebook there, right?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Well, no worries. If you would like to reach out to Vincent for any questions, you just DM us at The Seasons Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. Again, follow us to support us. And that's it. That's another episode of The Seasons Podcast. Hope to see you soon again. Until then, peace.
See ya.
All right.
All right.
Boom, bada, boom, bam, bam. Awesome.